Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. The following are a series of communications from the spirit of Frances Banks, a former nun and psychologist who passed away in the mid-20th century. Through a collection of telepathic exchanges with her friend Helen Greaves, spanning several months from December 1965 to April 66, Frances shares her experiences in the afterlife. These conversations, compiled in the book Testimony of Light, offer a comprehensive look of Frances' journey in the realms beyond the physical life. From her initial moments after transition to a growing understanding of the afterlife, we'll explore key insights and experiences Frances conveyed over this period, providing a fascinating glimpse into what may await us all in the beyond. Frances.
I remember the moment clearly. 1 minute I was in my physical body, and the next I found myself in a completely new environment. It was as if I had wakened from a deep sleep.
Frances describes her initial moments in the afterlife, emphasising the continuity of consciousness.
I opened my eyes, or rather, I came back to consciousness, and there was Mother Florence, just as she used to be when I knew her years ago in our religious community. She took my hand and said, "So you have arrived safely." I must have been very tired because I drifted off again.
Frances soon realised she was in a kind of rest home or hospital for souls transitioning from earthly life.
When I became fully aware again, I found myself lying on a bed, gazing out at a tranquil and beautiful scene. The sunlight seemed to flow over everything. It was September 24th, 1965, and I had just begun my journey in this new world.
As Frances adjusted to her new surroundings, she encountered familiar faces and made new acquaintances.
I met Father Joseph, whom we used to call Dominic. He was just as I remembered him from our retreat days in the community. He didn't say much, but I felt such power and strength flow from him.
Frances describes the process of reviewing her earthly life and coming to terms with her past actions and decisions.
It's a sobering experience, seeing your life play out before you. You're the accused, the judge, and the jury all at once. But there's always help available for those who need it. The sisters here are wonderful at guiding souls through this process.
As Frances continued her journey, she began to understand the structure of the afterlife and the various planes of existence.
There are many levels here, each corresponding to a soul state of development. I'm currently in what you might call the astral plane, but there are higher realms of pure spirit that I hope to reach someday.
Frances encountered many souls in various stages of their afterlife journey. One particularly touching story involved a young girl named Jeannie.
Jeannie was about 12 years old when she passed over. She had been a promising young dancer until she contracted polio. When she arrived here, she was overjoyed to find she could walk and dance again.
Frances recounts Jeannie's touching realisation of a new reality. Jeannie.
Is this heaven?
Frances.
It's the beginning of heaven, Jeannie. You mean we're only starting? We're not there yet? Not in the heaven you mean, Jeannie, but we're on our way there.
Frances also describes encounters with souls who had more difficult transitions, including a former German officer struggling with guilt and remorse.
This poor man had been wandering in the lower realms for about 20 years. He was filled with remorse for his actions during the war. It's a stark reminder that our choices in life have consequences that follow us even after death.
Throughout her communications, Frances emphasises the importance of love, forgiveness, and spiritual growth.
Here we learn that judging others is futile. We're all on a journey of growth and understanding. Even those who committed terrible acts on earth have the opportunity for redemption and progress.
Frances also shares her experiences with group souls and the interconnectedness of all beings.
We belong to many groups: family groups, interest groups, work groups. These all form part of larger group souls. It's a beautiful, intricate system that shows how we're all connected.
As Frances continued her afterlife journey, she began to experience higher states of consciousness.
I'm learning to function more in what I call my body of light. It's a gradual process, but it allows me to commune with more advanced souls and access greater wisdom.
Frances described a particularly profound experience of visiting a higher plane.
I found myself in what seemed to be a great university of the spirit. There were beautiful Grecian-style buildings, gardens with fountains of light, and souls engaged in deep study and contemplation. It was like a dream come true for me, who had always longed for such a place of learning.
However, Frances realised she wasn't yet ready to fully enter this realm.
When I tried to enter one of the inner halls, I was blinded by an intense light. I realised then that I still had much to learn and grow before I could join these advanced souls.
Throughout her communications, Frances stresses the continuity of life and the importance of spiritual development.
Death is not the end. It's merely a transition to a new phase of existence. We continue to grow, learn and progress. The experiences we have on earth are invaluable for our spiritual development.
Frances also shares insights about the nature of time and reality in the afterlife.
Time as you know it doesn't exist here. We measure progress by states of consciousness rather than hours or days. And what we call reality is much more fluid and responsive to thought than in the physical world.
One of the most significant realizations Frances had was about the nature of spiritual growth.
I used to strive so hard for spiritual enlightenment when I was on earth. Now I realised that the Spirit was always there within me. The key is not to struggle, but to let go and allow the Spirit to flow through you.
Frances describes the process of shedding the earthly attachments and moving towards a higher state of being.
It's like shedding an old skin. Gradually, the coils of lower density are slipping away from me. What's left is essentially light, a body of light that's more real and substantial than anything I experienced on earth.
As Frances progressed, she began to have experiences of even higher states of consciousness.
There are moments when I can transition to a higher consciousness. It's an exquisite sense of peace and freedom that I can scarcely explain. It's the reality of being, the joy beyond words.
Frances also shares her observations about the power of thought in the afterlife.
Here, thoughts are immediately potent. They shape our reality instantly. We have to learn to guard our minds carefully because negative thoughts can have immediate consequences.
Throughout her communications, Frances emphasises the importance of love and service.
Love is the key to everything here. It's not just an emotion, but a force that propels us forward in our evolution. And service to others is one of the most powerful ways we can grow.
Frances described her work helping other souls adjust to the afterlife.
I work with newly arrived souls, helping them understand where they are and what's happening to them. It's deeply fulfilling work, and I learn as much from them as they do from me.
As her understanding grew, Frances began to see the larger pattern of spiritual evolution.
We're all on a journey back to the divine source. It's a long process, taking many lifetimes and experiences in different realms, but each step forward brings us closer to that ultimate union.
Frances shares her insights about the purpose of earthly life.
Life on earth is a school for the soul. The challenges and difficulties we face there are opportunities for growth. Even our mistakes and failures serve a purpose in our overall development.
She also talks about the importance of meditation and inner quiet.
In the earthly life, I always sought for breakthroughs to the spirit. Now I realise that the key is to be still and let the spirit come to you. Meditation and contemplation are vital practices for spiritual growth.
Frances describes the gradual expansion of her consciousness and understanding.
It's like a flowering of the soul. Each new realisation opens up new vistas of understanding. The process is endless and endlessly fascinating.
She also shares her experience with what she calls ceremonies of light.
These are gatherings where souls come together to raise their vibration collectively. It's an indescribable experience of unity and spiritual upliftment.
As her communications continued, Frances began to speak more about the higher realms and advanced beings.
There are great souls here, beings of immense wisdom and love. They guide and oversee the evolution of less developed souls. Someday we may all reach that level of development.
Frances emphasises that despite her growth and new understanding, she remains essentially herself.
I'm still Frances. My core self hasn't changed, but my perspective has expanded enormously. It's like seeing the world through new eyes.
She also talks about the process of reviewing and understanding her past lives.
We can access memories of our past incarnations here. It's a humbling experience to see the patterns of our soul's journey across many lifetimes.
Frances shares a growing understanding of the interconnectedness of all life.
We're all part of a great tapestry of being. Each soul is a thread in this cosmic fabric, and every life experience adds to the overall pattern.
As her time in the afterlife progressed, Frances began to look forward to future growth and experiences.
There are higher realms awaiting us, realms of unimaginable beauty and wisdom. I look forward to the day when I'm ready to move on to these new adventures.
Frances reflects on the changes in her understanding since leaving Earth.
So much of what I thought was important on Earth now seems trivial, and things I overlooked have turned out to be of great spiritual significance. It's a continuous process of re-evaluation and growth.
She also shares insights about the nature of God and the divine.
God is not a personage as many on earth imagine, but a supreme creative force of love and intelligence. We're all part of this divine essence, gradually awakening to our true nature.
Frances talks about the joy of reuniting with loved ones in the afterlife.
I've met many old friends and family members here. These reunions are joyous, but they're not the end goal. We're all here to continue our growth and development.
She also describes the process of communicating back to Earth.
It's not easy to get messages through to those still in physical form. It requires effort on both sides, but it's worth it to share what we've learned here.
As her understanding deepened, Frances began to see her earthly life in a new light.
I can now see how every experience, even the painful ones, served a purpose in my soul's growth. Nothing was wasted, nothing was truly a mistake.
Frances shares a growing sense of peace and acceptance.
There's no need to rush here. We have all of eternity to learn and grow. I'm learning to relax into the process and trust in the divine plan.
She also talks about the nature of love in the afterlife.
Love here is not the possessive, needy emotion it often is on earth. It's a pure force of acceptance and support for each being's growth and evolution.
Frances describes her growing ability to perceive higher truths.
It's as if veils are gradually being lifted from my eyes. With each new understanding, I see reality more clearly and deeply.
She also shares insights about the creative power of thought.
In a very real sense, we create our own reality here with our thoughts and beliefs. It's a responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity for growth.
As her communications draw to a close, Frances reflects on her journey so far.
I'm filled with gratitude for this incredible journey. Every day brings new wonders and insights, and I know this is just the beginning of an eternal adventure.
Frances leaves us with a final message of hope and encouragement.
To those still on earth, I say, don't fear death. It's not an end, but a new beginning. Live your lives with love and purpose, knowing that every positive thought and action contributes to your eternal growth.
And so we leave Frances Banks, continuing her journey in the realms beyond physical life. Her experiences remind us that death is not the end, but a transition to a new state of being and understanding. The adventure of the soul, it seems, is eternal.